Everybody connected. We'll go on the record in People versus Troy Wilson. Again, we have two cases, 195726 and 236578. Both these files are set for sentencing today. With regard to the pre-sentence report, Mr. Wilson, have you had a chance to go through that pre-sentence report and speak with your attorney? Okay. All right. And dealing first, as indicated when we took our break, both reports are kind of combined into one. Mr. Gilo, as it pertains to your file with Mr. Wilson, are there any additions, deletions, or corrections?
No, Your Honor, we're satisfied. The scoring is over.
Okay. And Mr. Brown, as to your file, which I believe is the probation violation file, any corrections need to be made to the report?
No, Your Honor.
And then Mr. Gilo, any challenges to the scoring as to file 236578?
No challenges, thank you.
Okay. Just so defense counsel and Mr. Wilson are aware, I did receive a number of letters on behalf of Mr. Wilson in relation to both files. And I did have a chance to review all those letters prior to the hearing date today. As to file 236578, Mr. Rolla, do you have any additions, deletions, or corrections or challenges to the scoring?
No additions, deletions, or corrections as to the body of the report, nor challenges as to the scoring. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Ayani, you're here on behalf of the Attorney General's office with regard to the probation violation file.
That is correct, Your Honor. Good morning.
Good morning. Did you have any corrections that you wanted to have made to that report?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Mr. Rolla, as to file 236578, which is the possession of methamphetamine, any allocation?
Yes, Judge. As indicated in the PSI, this is a gentleman who obviously has substance abuse issues. He absconded on his Crawford County Circuit Court matters. These are his 6th felonies, his 8th controlled substance convictions. It's a situation where many of his prior felonies involve methamphetamine. He has 12 scorable misdemeanors, countless non-scorable misdemeanors. And in addition to that, obviously the court's well aware of his other matters. I'll let the AG's office handle those. But this is a defendant, quite frankly, who does not deserve SAI. He needs an extensive prison sentence for two things. One, to hopefully have him finally quit his meth habit, which apparently has been controlling his life for quite some time. And the second, quite frankly, to protect society for persons like him. There's a recommendation of 18 months to 10 years, and I think it's a 3 days credit, if I recall correctly. I think that's probably an appropriate sentence, so I'd ask the court to oppose the same.
Another word for the SAI, Special Alternative to Incarceration Program. It was originally called boot camp because it was a strict military-style physical program that had a major overhaul in 2008. It went from being a hardcore program to a more focused educational program that offered cognitive behavioral restructuring, family community programs, education to the point that they're able to get their GED if they haven't already done so. It also teaches them daily life skills and self-discipline that's focused solely on re-entry and preventing reoffending. And the program has also had significant success compared to the prior physical punishment style it had years ago.
Thank you. Mr. Ayani, did you have any victims that wish to address the court today on the probation violation file?
Unless there's somebody in the courtroom that I can't see, I'm not aware of any, Your Honor.
I see Ms. Dazinski, who I believe is the recipient. She's present by Zoom. She has not turned on her camera or microphone. Did you want me to inquire of her?
Yeah, would you? Yes, please, Your Honor, if she's interested in making a statement.
Sure. Ms. Dazinski, can you hear me?
I can, Your Honor.
Was there any statement that you wanted to make as a victim in the child support file?
Just furthermore, the Attorney General, the simple fact that it's clear that he has and continues to have a methamphetamine problem on top of not providing and supporting for his children. it's been 9 years since he's had any contact with his oldest daughter. He may say that I don't allow it, or that he doesn't have my phone number or whatever the excuse may be, but he has plenty of ways to contact outside parties in regards to wanting to sign off on Brooklyn, his oldest daughter, which if he can find a means and a way to reach out for that, he could find a means and a way to reach out to make simple contact, or a birthday, a holiday, $20 even would be more than what he's even attempted to do in the case of his child. Not only does he have a methamphetamine problem, he also has a domestic violence issue on top of it. The 18 months to 10 years, is that just for the methamphetamine, or is that all counts and situations considered?
That's for the methamphetamine on the probation violation. The time he has left on that is 6 months.
Okay, that's not for the issue at hand. That's just for what he's sitting for now, correct?
The 6 months would be the time he has left to serve on your child support case.
So
the 18-month recommendation goes to the methamphetamine charge.
Okay, so 6 months to sit for 9 years of not supporting his child. I mean, personally, I don't think that's good. Like, I think that's like a slap on the wrist, like he's gotten over and over again. He failure to appear, failure to pay, fleeting and eluding. I mean, obviously you'll take that into consideration, but that's just my opinion, my point on it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Dazinski. I appreciate your statements here today. Mr. Ayani, anything you wanted to say with regard to sentencing on the child support file?
No, Your Honor, we understand the court's limitation on the cases, but we do view this as basically rolled into one case since this sentences will be served concurrently. We would ask that probation be revoked, that he be sentenced to prison concurrent with the other case. He's used up more than as many second chances as the court has provided, and I believe something more needs to be done to gain his attention.
All right,
we would support the prosecutor's recommendation.
All right, thank you. Mr. Gilo, as to the methamphetamine charge, anything on behalf of Mr. Wilson?
Well, it would appear that Mr. Wilson is going to be in jail with respect to his other charges there. We'd ask that these charges run concurrent, and we'd ask the court to consider boot camp. The rule would appear that what we need here is my client, Mr. Wilson, to get fully employed, start paying off and paying his mother of his children the child support. And if the court allows the boot camp in prison with respect to the recommendation, he would be able to accomplish that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Anything on behalf of Mr. Wilson on the child support file?
Your Honor, I don't have a lot to add to what Mr. Gilo just said. If he does have an opportunity to get out on boot camp, he can continue to work. He clearly needs some help. He does have support outside, which I think the court can see from the letters that were received. There is some potential here. He just needs to get the help that he needs, and hopefully he will do that.
Thank you. Mr. Wilson, was there anything you wanted to say today?
I asked the court for leniency. I asked that boot camp be an option as it's disciplined and structured, and that's something that I do need in my life. I do own a business, so I accept my responsibilities, and that this does look bad as a business owner. I have made arrangements in prison to get on substance abuse programs, and I plan to keep that going on after prison to, transfer into sober living. I've moved my business and myself out of the county that I currently was located in to try the saying, people, places, and things. Change that first. As I like to say, I'd like to say I'm sorry to the courts. I'm sorry to the Special Attorney, Assistant Attorney General Larry Brown, my lawyer Gilo, and also to the courts. Danielle as well.
All right, thank you. I've had a chance to review the pre-sentence report in this case. Mr. Wilson, I'm well familiar with you. You've been in front of me on a number of cases, both here and in Crawford County. Those cases have involved criminal charges, drug charges like the one we have in the newer file here today, friend of the court cases with your 4 different children, and I know there's several different mothers involved, personal protection order cases, a lot of different types of proceedings over the past number of years. So I'm well familiar with you, your circumstances, and your past history. I did have a chance to review those letters. The letters are very complimentary of you as a person. I don't know how well those individuals, know or understand what your background or history is. But that's something the court takes into account. I certainly take into account what Ms. Dzinski's had to say here today. I suspect it probably wouldn't be much different than the mothers of your other children in terms of the child support issue. I'm sure that you have been battling an addiction problem. The nature of the charges, as well as the circumstances that bring you before the court in this and the other cases, make that very clear. I don't know what efforts you've made, if any, to deal with that, but until you do, you're going to end up in the same place over and over and over again. I think you've used up every possibility of any kind of community sanction. There's been numerous chances on probation, numerous jail sanctions. Frankly, I'm surprised that this is the first prison recommendation that you've received, given your past history. And I think you've had it 9 times on probation, 9 different jail sentences with no prison sentences. So when we get to that point, it's clear that the previous efforts by the court through probation, through jail sentences to correct behavior haven't been successful. And so now it's time for a different type of sanction. In terms of the sentence on the methamphetamine charge, I think a sentence at the top end of the guidelines is warranted given the circumstances in this case and your past history. I also agree that the maximum sentence on the probation violation file is appropriate. And Ms. Dzinski, I certainly understand your frustration with the system and the level of sentence. As a practical matter, given the charges on the drug issues, Mr. Wilson is facing much more time on that, and any time that he would serve on the child support issues is going to be subsumed or basically taken up by his prison sentences on the drug charges.
Your Honor, can I add something to this, please?
Sure.
Just on Mr. Troy Wilson's behalf, he has always actually been a very hard worker. He has the potential to be something. I don't mean to sit here and speak negative about him as a person. Him as a father is obviously doesn't have my highest opinion of him, but him as a person, he does have the ability to be a hard worker, to be a good person, to be, a good function in society. It's not that I want to see him get the worst of the books thrown at him. I just want him to be the best that he can be, not just for his children, but for himself. I don't know if he would ever be able to rekindle the relationship of him and Brooklyn, but even for the sake of his other children, I just wish that he would get a grasp on society and reality and realize that there's more out there than, violence, drugs, alcohol, and just the life that he's living in general. I think that he does need rehabilitation and structure. And I guess that's all else I have to say.
All right, thank you. I appreciate your statements, and I think it's a very generous point of view for you to take, and I hope Mr. Wilson takes those statements that you made to heart as well.
Thank you.
And I think you point out a good fact too, which Ms. Basinski, which is that I'm going on Mr. Wilson's criminal behavior here. No, not making judgments as to his character or anything else. That's really not my job. My job is to address the goals of sentencing based on the wrongful behavior that he's engaged in. So there's certainly room for those things that you mentioned, Ms. Basinski, but as it relates to his criminal behavior, he's really at the end of the line in terms of rehabilitation. I mean, there's been 9 times on probation with attempts to address rehabilitation. And at some point, as much as people in Mr. Wilson's personal life may want to have him seek rehabilitation, at some point the court isn't going to put any more community resources towards that when it's been unsuccessful so many times.
That's understandable. I guess, and that was if he could get some sort of rehab while he's in prison, to be able to learn to function without the addiction and the dependence of drugs and alcohol for a normal, sober living life outside.
Understood. Thank you. So as it relates to the methamphetamine charge, the court finds that an appropriate sentence is 28 months to 10 years. Mr. Wilson on that file does have credit for 3 days served. The court will order a crime victims assessment in the amount of $130, court costs of $325, attorney fees of $350, the DNA testing fee of $60, and a $68 state cost. On that file, the court does not find that the boot camp program is appropriate. I agree with the prosecutor. I think Mr. Wilson needs to spend some time in a different facility, in a different environment, rather than being released early for work camp purposes. And again, I think there's been enough community resources directed over a period of time towards rehabilitation that at this point, the court is looking more towards punishment. In terms of the probation violation file, the court will discharge Mr. Wilson unsuccessfully from his probation. The court will impose 6 months in the Otsego County Jail, that time to be served concurrently with his time in the Department of Corrections. The court will reserve any outstanding fines and costs on that file. Mr. Wilson, you do have the ability to appeal both of these sentences. If you haven't already received it, the court will provide you with an acknowledgement of your appellate rights. That will explain to you how to seek an appeal as well as how to request a court-appointed lawyer to help you with any appeal in this case. Mr. Rolla, is there anything further we need to address?
None from the people's side, Judge.
Mr. Ianni, anything further from your side on behalf of the AG's office?
No, Your Honor. Thank you very much.
Mr. Hilo or Mr. Brown?
Nothing further. Thank you, Judge.
Nothing further, thank you.
All right, that concludes this hearing. Mr. Wilson, you are remanded to the custody of state at this time, and all parties on this case are free to disconnect.
Thank you.